Hello and welcome to this new video where I want to talk to you about a mass path that I followed up on in Freshford, or just outside Freshford actually. And I want to dedicate this video to Ned Kennedy, who sadly passed away very recently. He was a prolific local historian in Freshford and he died way too young. And he had at least 3 more books in him, and it's just so sad that he will never publish them. It's a great loss for the local history in Freshford. The mass path I came across in the schools collection, which is on duchas.ie. I had searched for all the mass paths in County Kilkenny and just searched for mass paths in County Kilkenny in the schools collection. And then I had made a map of roughly where they were. This is the map. I can share it in the video description. Some of them we have mapped by now, and we have some mapped that weren't in the schools collection, but all the orange markers, they are all locations of mass paths in County Kilkenny that are mentioned in the schools collections, or mass rocks. So there's quite a lot to follow up on, and as I said, there's way more mass paths out there that didn't make it into the schools collection for one reason or other. So one in the schools collection, there are quite a few in the schools collection for Freshford. This was collected by Cissy O'Neill, and it's on this page. And it says here, there are many mass paths in this district. There is one in Phelans across Mr. Phelans field, or Phelans paddock as it is called. This is a shortcut to mass and to the schools, and all the pedestrians come this way. So we have 2 locations there, Phelans and Mr. Phelans field, or Phelans paddock. Phelans didn't mean anything to me. I wasn't even sure if that was just a pond, a white pond or something, or what it was. But I went into the Loop Cafe in Freshford and asked around, and I already have a reputation there because I usually go there for my lunch when I'm in Freshford, when I'm doing some sort of survey. And they asked me if I was still looking for whatever I had been looking for, and I said, yes I am, I'm looking for a mass path now. Has anyone ever heard of Phelans paddock? And of course they hadn't. But there was a gentleman sitting there, and I didn't ask for his name, very sorry if you watch, thank you very much for your information. And he said, do you have any more location on it? And I said, well, Phelans, but I don't know where that is. Oh, and he said, oh, just Phelans, that's just out there, out the Boer Crucia. And I knew where that was, thankfully, because that's also in the schools collection. And now they also have signs up in Freshford, partly thanks to Ned Kennedy. And so Boer Crucia is what it's called in the schools collection. For some reason, they call it now Boon Crucia. I have looked up Boon. I can't really find out why they would call it that when in the schools collection everywhere it's called Boer Crucia. But that's the way they call it. And on OpenStreetMap I have all the names. And he said it was between the entrance into the back entrance into Upper Court Domain, which is this driveway here with this stile, which is now blocked by flower pots, and the bend into the Ballylarkin Road, which is up here. So it's this area here, must be Phelans, and you see I put the name on it as a subtown land. So the next person that is going to look for them, if they use OpenStreetMap, they'll find it. And if Google Maps copies these place names, they probably won't because there's no commercial interest in it. You might even find it on Google. And luckily also I had gotten this field name here of a gentleman who lives in one of, I think in this house here. Last year when I walked the loop walk, the Freshford Loop, and it's called Ker's Paddock, and I said, hold on now, there's paddock in that name, that's a bit suspicious now, and it is in Phelans. So I looked onto the British War Office map, which we have available. So this is what the fields looks like now. This is what before I mapped it. This is what the field looks like there now. So there's no, you can't see a path going anywhere. But if you look at the British War Office map, lo and behold, there is a footpath mapped there. It's not a great shortcut, but believe me, you'll be thankful for it because I walked it today. Not the shortcut, the long way around, because the footpath is no longer accessible. But there is a footpath there, and you will find that a lot with mass path, that once you roughly know where they are, chances are you're going to find a footpath mapped on the old Ordnance Survey maps, and we can only use the British War Office map for that, but it's there. So that's great. So I thought that must be it then. Then I was trying to find out where these Phelans lived, that this paddock was called after, or named after. So first I went into Griffith Valuation, and I looked for Phelan, Phelan, and couldn't find them. But I looked at the map view, which, let me see, I have too many tabs open now. There's the map view. I won't go into how you find that in the Griffith Valuation, but there we have another Ordnance Survey map, and we have the same path here. It's a bit cut because it's between these two sheets of paper, but obviously that was a connecting line here, and the land is owned by someone that we will find under 2A later on, and nobody's living on it. I think unless these are buildings, but they look more like trees, or I don't know what these are, these 4 blobs here. There could be a spring here even. I'm not entirely sure what that means. It's in the townland of Tobernapichte. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong as usual, which is the well of the worm, or the well of the serpent, which is up here. I might have mentioned that earlier in a previous video. So it's owned by someone that we will find under 2A in the Griffith Valuation, which is 1840s, right, if I'm not mistaken. So that's already 90 years before the schools collection, which was done in the 1930s. So if we go into Tobernapichte, then in Griffith Valuation under 2A, the owner is Daniel Lawler, I presume it's pronounced. And the land across the road is Richard Lawler, probably his brother, cousin, or something. So all this land is Richard Lawler, and this 2A, to be in wherever that is Daniel Lawler. So no sign of anyone called Phelan anywhere, or Whelan. And when you go through the list, there's also nobody called Whelan or Phelan for Tobernapichte, which is unfortunate. But we can close the Griffith Valuation then. And then I thought maybe in the census, because that's closer to the schools collection, the 1901 census and the 1911 census, that's closer to the 1930s than the Griffith Valuation. So I went for 1911 first, because that's closer to 1930, looked for Phelan in the county of Kilkenny, and I think I went for the DED, because you never know what kinds of transcription mistakes there are in the census, and it's just safer to find that, and I can always narrow it down within Freshford then. You'll see what I mean. I'll hit search, and then I'll go through here, and it gives me all the Phelans. It's not an awful lot. It's 7. And first 3 are in Ballyphillip. That's no use to us. Second, Monabrica, that's also nowhere near. Well, it's not where the area we're looking for. And the closest that I could find was this in Bora Crucia. So that's why I'm saying, why would I call it Bun Crucia when it's called Bora Crucia? And so there was a Mary Phelan living on this road here, which might have gone all the way up to here somewhere. I asked some locals today, and they think that the name only applies to here because it's called Borna Crucia, because there was a wayside cross here at the entrance into the Upper Court Domain, and the cross was moved since, and it is now this, it's not shown here, it's called a market cross now, but it was never a market cross. It's a wayside cross erected by someone called Grace, I think, but I might be wrong. in probably the 1600s or 1700s or even 1500s. And because it's the road leading to the cross Borna Crucia, that's why it's called the Road of the Cross. And of course, this road would also lead to the cross coming from that way. So I'm not entirely sure how far this name applies. It could apply only for this bit, but it could also apply up to here, especially since Toberna Prisca doesn't turn up in the census records at all. So it would make sense if they used the street name Borna Crucia up to wherever there were houses in 1911, which I can not really show you. I can try. The historic environment viewer is not available at the moment for the last 5 or 6 days now, so I have to use GeoHive instead, which has more options, so it's actually not that bad. So Freshford and this bend here is really significant, so it's hard to miss it. The closest to the 1911 census would be the 25-inch map in time, because that was made between 1901 and 1913. So we have this field here again, the paddock, the footpath going through it, across it, and then we have a house here, which I presume was thatched at the time, because a lot of the cottages along, there's Buna Crucia on this one. Maybe that's why Buna Crucia on this map. Maybe that's why they went for that. And so she could have lived, Mary Phelan, if you can follow me. She might have lived somewhere here, but it could have also been this cottage here. I don't know. But it would be a reason why this would be called Phelans Paddock if Phelans lived across the road from it. There's a bit of speculation there, I have to admit. So Mary Phelan in the 1911 census, going back to her, she's 60 in 1911, bear that in mind. And she's the only person living in that house. Number 1, Bora Crucia, which again, if they started counting from here and this is Bora Crucia, that would be number 1 Bora Crucia. But I don't know how they counted, and it's all a bit difficult, because unfortunately, as far as I know, the census didn't come with a map. I might be wrong. So this is Mary Phelan. She couldn't read, or she could not write. She could read. She could probably write her own name, and she spells it Whelan, but for some reason the enumerator spells it Phelan. If we go back to 1901 then and search for the same thing, yeah, she's gone. But then I thought, and this is a bit weird, maybe if I try spelling it with the W, so Whelan, maybe she'll be there again. And she is. So there's Mary Whelan, still living on Bora Crucia, and she's 45 now. So she's aged 15 years within the 10 years between 1901 and 1911. Miracles over miracles. If I click on that, you'll see that her father is still alive. In 1901, Thomas Whelan, he's 70, or thereabouts. And her brother, Thomas, is also living with them. So there's 3 people living in that house. There it is, number 23, but maybe they started counting from the other end in 1911 and 1901. Just to make things more difficult for future researchers. So there's Mary Whelan, and there's more information about them there. She can read, but she can't write. Her brother can write, and her father can't even read. So that probably accounts for the different spellings. So the spelling changed. But there is a Phelan family there, or a Whelan family around there. So I decided that it must be this mass path going through here. This is the house. Well, it's the side of the house. I think they've replaced it, but they do have a little model of a thatched cottage in their window. So that's how I found out about this mass path. There is a little bit of research involved, but not an awful lot that you have to leave your desk for. I did go today, though. I did walk along here and up here and try to see if there was any sign of a style or anything like that. I had talked to the men in this green and they had told me it was blocked up. But I still wanted to go, and I also did my mapillary on the way up, so that should be covered fairly soon. I haven't had a chance to ask the man who gave me this field name if he knows if it was ever called Phelans paddock. But it is the only field in Polbon with a footpath through it. So I'm, let's say, 95% sure that this is the mass path. I've called it a Polbon mass path because if you watched any of my previous videos about mass path, you know that I have to come up with a name. Some of them might have had names already in the past, but it's very difficult to find out, and it certainly wasn't in the school's collection. So I decided to call it Polbon mass path because I wanted to record the Irish subtownland name, and also because the name of the field has changed from Phelans paddock into Kerr's paddock, and yeah. So I've taken some pictures and I've added them to Wikimedia. There's also a story that the two men told me in the green, John and Joe. And the story was that there was a landowner, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the name, because I'm not quite sure how long ago it was, but a landowner who owned that field some time ago decided to block up the mass path, the entrance and the exit into the mass path. And shortly after, his daughter died, who was only in her 20s. And of course, the way people are with these stories, the locals blamed him blocking up the mass path for his daughter dying. She probably had some underlying condition or something. But that's what happens. And there's a local story for you that I have also added to the description of the category on Wikimedia. So we have that recorded now, without any names, because I don't know how long ago it was. They're different owners now. I got that much, but I'm not quite sure if maybe the names shouldn't be mentioned. I'm fairly sure that Mary Whelan or Phelan is dead by now if she was 60 in 1911, or 55, or however old she was. There might be a bit more to find out about this mass path and this family, Phelan Whelan, but I found out enough to map the mass path, so that's enough for me. And it's displayed here on my UMap. It led to, obviously, the church, St. Lachtan's Church, but also there is an old school building here, which it led to. And then there was also a school building here. This corner building here was the Female National School, according to the NIH. And I've added the NIH reference number to the building as well. Something I decided to add to the Wikidata entry. I created a Wikidata entry for this mass path as well, of course, and it's here. Is the terminus, to add the terminus to all the mass paths to say where they went to. You can only do that if the terminus value already has a Wikidata entry. This church, which according to Wikidata is called Church of St. Lachtan and St. Nicol, probably to make it easier to differentiate between the Church of Ireland, St. Lachtan's Church, and the Catholic St. Lachtan's Church. And I wanted to add the schoolhouse here, but it doesn't have a Wikidata entry, and neither has this building yet. I might do that later on, but that's something that you can bear in mind for creating Wikidata entries. For mass path is adding the terminus statement. It will complain about that because it's meant to be used for public transport, but I'm sure because it's open source that can be fixed. That's all. So you didn't have to watch me map at all this time, but I hope you still found it interesting. And there are a couple more mass paths around Freshford that I need to follow up on. Thanks for watching. Thanks to the people in the Loop Cafe. And also thanks for John and Joe, who gave me some of the local information and some of the stories there. And hopefully I can hear more of those stories on future visits. That'd be great. Thanks very much for watching, and I shall see you soon again in another video. Slán go fóill.